been a couple months, but we got some games we want to talk about. My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
So we do these anticipated releases video. We used to do them every month. We kind of had a little break for the months, but we have a pretty exciting month coming up in October, so we have some games we want to tell you about. So the way these videos usually go for people who are new is we each pick a couple of games that we want to talk to you about and pretty much say why we're anticipated for them. Most of the time it's about why we're excited for the games coming out, what things that we're excited to, or what we're looking forward to as we're going to be playing them. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. Sometimes we want to see if it'll crash and burn and how funny the fire is going to be. So without further ado, Mike, what game do you want to start us out with?
Oh my god, that's a good question. Okay, should I start with the big one or a little one?
I always save my big ones for the end.
All right, I'll start with, well, I shouldn't call it little, but I'll start with the one that probably, you know, I think we're all going to care about the least. So there is an anthology called Dark Pictures Anthology. Some of you might remember, I mentioned this in last year's, as if you remember last year's anticipated releases. But if you do, there was a game called Man of Medan that came out. This coming out this year is a game called Little Hope, which is the second part of that anthology. It's made by Supermassive Games, which, and this is, now I'm going to get to the gameplay part, is the company that made Until Dawn. The gameplay of these games is basically exactly the same as Until Dawn. So they're basically like mini games. This one's going to retail for $30, same as last year. But it's basically one of those stories where you control different characters, you go through their story, you make choices as them, and then characters may potentially live or die depending on the actions that you make. So if you've seen Until Dawn, then you kind of understand how the gameplay works. It's kind of the same as Telltale, where it's less action-packed. You're not running around with like weapons and stuff like that. It's more your character just walks around, interacts with the world, and then a lot of it is just like quick time events. So if someone's going to hit you, instead of like pressing the block button, you just press whatever button shows up on the screen. And so that's kind of how these games work. Now, I've never played the first one. Me and Travis actually started playing it for a bit, and we got like an hour in, and then his recording crashed, and we never played it again. But it's basically the same as Until Dawn, and so this one's really short. This one's centered on like 4 college students, which it makes me laugh because that is such a cliched story. And it basically goes through their adventure inside some like dark, mysterious place. I don't remember like the exact details. They didn't give too much of it. But it definitely looks interesting. If you're someone that's like interested in those, you know, like spooky make choices and your choices might get everyone killed and, you know, stuff like that, this game is definitely worth checking out. And it comes out October 30th, which is like the day before Halloween. So that's kind of cool too. Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, I feel like those kinds of games, like obviously it's more along the horror genre. So if it wouldn't come out around I mean, it's kind of fitting it comes out around the time of Halloween, but yeah. I'm wondering, is this a sequel then to the other Man of Medan then? I couldn't remember.
No, I'm glad you said that actually, because I forgot. So they're all standalone games.
Okay.
They're just like, yeah, mini games that are just like bundled into the anthology.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right then.
Yeah.
Well then, I'm going to go for my first one, and that's going to be Yeast Origin coming to the Nintendo Switch. This game's already out I know it's out for the Xbox One. I'm not sure if it's out for the PS4. It might be, but the Yeast series, YS, it kind of has a weird pronunciation. It's been a series that I've gotten into more recently, if anything, within the past couple of years. When Yeast 8 came out on the Switch, it was a game that I fell in love with. Personally, to me, it's one of the best action RPGs I've ever played, which is saying something. And it's a game that I feel like almost everybody should play because it has a different style. The Yeast games have a different style about it, where they're kind of like action adventure games, but they're action and obviously that has aspects of like dungeon crawlers and whatnot, weapon upgrades and everything, typical stuff that you'd have in an action RPG. But it feels very different than the other ones that I would say are kind of typical, I guess. And I've only played a couple of Yeast games up to this point. I've played Yeast 8 Lacrimosa of Dana and Yeast 4 Memories of Salsetta. And this one, Yeast Origin, obviously, it's an origin story. So the Yeast series usually follows a character, Adol Kristen, and from what I can tell in Yeast Origin, I never played this one before, but I don't think it actually follows. Mike, you've played this game, right?
Yeah, no, he is not the main character. I don't even think they mention his name at any point at all.
Interesting. Well, either way, it's kind of nice because the Yeast games, really kind of skipped Nintendo consoles altogether. Like, I believe a couple of them were PSP ones. Yeast 8 was originally a Vita exclusive until it finally got ported to PC, and then the PS4 and then the Switch, which I'll be honest, I think it's way better to go for the PS4 version because the Switch version has a lot of performance issues and really bad translation. Pretty much all localization that it had for the Switch version was really bad. So bad that they actually had to redo the localization the localization for it, and it still had errors. But besides that, at its core, all of the games that I've played, like at least gameplay-wise, have been fantastic. Yeast 4 didn't have the best story-wise, but I mean, in terms of the gameplay, these games always deliver in my book. So it's a game that I'll probably be trying out. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it specifically for Switch, but hey, it's an excuse to talk about a series that is now one that I love. So right now, I'm hoping for Monstrum Nox for it to be localized now, because it is out, but it is not. I don't think Falcom has either translated or anything like that. So either way, fun game series, always comes through with the gameplay department. This one does not have Adol Kristen, so don't expect him.
Yeah, like Nick said, it's funny because Nick is the Yeast guy. He's played, like you said, a couple of the games pretty much. I mean, all the ones that he can play, at least, because a lot of them are so hard to get. But ironically, the one that he hasn't played is the only one that I have played, which is this one. And so, kind of like he said, it's a ton of fun. It reminds me a lot of like old school handheld type dungeon crawler games, where it's kind of just like this top-down camera, and the characters that you control just kind of traverse through this one large tower. From what I remember, I could be off with my timeline, but I want to say it takes place like somewhere between like 5 and 1,000 years between the start of Adol's story. So I think that might be why he's not mentioned in it, because I think it's like way before that time. You would understand the backstory a lot when you play it. I didn't really understand. Then we play the other ones. But it's basically like a massive prologue, kind of like Skyward Sword, I guess you could say. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. It's difficult. It's like a good amount of challenge in it. Highly would recommend it. It was a lot of fun. So I can second that. As someone that has played it, it's well worth it.
Yeah, I was going to say, the way that I always, at least from what I've seen, the way that Adol's stories pretty much link, there's really no linking that happens between them. Like, it's just Adol wants to set off on a new adventure, and then it goes into the next game. So it's like, so yeah, there probably is some context to it, but I mean, I don't think that there's much of a correlation between, like, hopefully, hey, I don't know, maybe that'll change when I play this, but yeah, usually it's just Adol wants to go on another adventure, he's an adventurer and whatnot. It's a very, like, thin plot point to start off, but the games are all really fun. Yeah,
that's true. All right, I'm going to jump into my second game. Ironically, this is probably a bigger release than the third one, but not to us, so I'm going to make this my second one, and that is Watch Dogs Legion. So for those of you that have played the first two Watch Dogs game, this is the third one. It's a sequel, but it's not like a direct sequel. From what I've heard, it's going away from what 2 was, and it's pulling the main character from 1 back. So Aiden Pierce, if you guys remember, he's going to be the main character in this one. It's basically, from what I've seen, almost going to play exactly the same. It's still heavily based on hacking, which is such an interesting concept, and it's actually such a fun, like, sandbox game to mess around in, because, like, in the first 2, you could, like, hack streetlights, you can, like, cause certain things to explode, you can hack into people's cell phones and, like, totally invade their privacy, which is funny to do in a video game, and then it also, like, speaks to, like, you know, the realism of, oh my god, surveillance is kind of a scary thing. And so this game kind of has, like, an interesting, like, tie-in to real life. But the third game, Watch Dogs Legion, is kind of being seen as a pretty big drift from what the franchise has done so far. For those of you that haven't seen it, they're doing this new recruiting mode in it. So normally it's basically a lot like GTA, where you do missions, you have side quests, and you kind of just play through the story at your own pace whenever you want to go to the mission. The only difference now is you can actually recruit people to help you on your journey. That sounds weird. It's like Wind Waker. Help you on your quest. But you know what I mean. And so, like, you can get different people. They have different jobs. I don't remember the exact jobs, but I want to say, like, some are like hackers, some are like security, stuff like that. There's different classes that you can give them. But from what I've read, you can pretty much recruit, like, every single person that you come across, which is kind of cool. So if they have, like, a little side quest or something on the side, you can recruit them and they'll join you. And you can get a pretty substantial team of hackers to help you, which is something new. So that seems really, really cool. The game is set in London. I believe it's like near future, so it takes place somewhere in the 2020s, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But it looks really interesting. Again, if you haven't played a Watchdog game and you're into like the sandbox type games like GTA and Saints Row and stuff like that, this one would be absolutely right up your alley. It's such a fun game to mess around in. The missions in it and like the story in it's kind of cool. I don't want to say it runs dry. I got kind of bored of it into the second game, but I'm hoping that like the recruitment missions that the third one is bringing in is going to make it a lot of fun. But definitely well worth checking out if you're into that style of game.
This is an Ubisoft game, right, Mike?
Yes.
Then I will add this because if you guys have been unaware, Ubisoft has been under hot water with a couple of things, and one of the things that I think is a good adjustment that Ubisoft's making is there's pretty much one guy that was the green light for all of their games, and I'm giving you a very, very brief summary of pretty much what happened. Ubisoft will get a lot of flack about a lot of their games feeling very samey. It's pretty much open world, same kind of mission structure and whatnot. And a lot of their more creative ideas were not greenlit. And the people who were really excited about those projects didn't even get through any of the development because this one guy pretty much held it all up. I don't remember his name, but pretty much what's happening now is I think they finally are either taking away his responsibility or he resigned. Whatever happened, there's a lot more of creative projects that are now coming from Ubisoft's way, and I'm hoping that it also affects Watch Dogs, because at least from the main criticisms that I've heard of the game is that it can get bland pretty fast, which is what you were telling me, Mike, where a lot of the missions can feel the same and it feels like you're doing the same thing over and over again. And I think that's one of the reasons the Assassin's Creed franchise up to that point was feeling stale. But now I think this is a good adjustment for they can at least be a little more creative and they can actually experiment with a couple of different routes. And I don't know if they're trying it with Watch Dogs, but I want to point it out because it is an Ubisoft game, that it is a possibility that this game might feel different than the previous ones. I don't know if it will, but at least internally there have been some changes that lend itself some credit that it could be a very different experience than the last couple of games because of the way that like the internal structure of Ubisoft got switched around.
It's interesting you bring that up, because if you look at a side-by-side of the first two games box art and then this box art, like it just has a different vibe. Like the first two games both have like one man on it that's just like staring like slightly off, off center, and
the
what it looks all serious.
AAA box art, you mean? Like
yes,
it's just a person
exactly.
maybe holding a gun.
Yes, exactly. I think they are both holding guns actually. But Watch Dogs Legion is totally different. If you look at the box art, like the guy's like wearing a pig mask and he's holding some sort of like skull looking thing in his hands. And like depending on the box art you look at, there's like a bunch of weirdly dressed people in the background. So it definitely feels like the vibe in it just feels different. So I think I can.
Good.
Yeah, and so it makes sense on what you're saying, because I mean the evidence seems to be there, because it definitely seems like it's moving in a more creative direction.
Mm-hmm. I'll keep my fingers crossed for it too, though, because I know that there's a couple of people I know you really like the Assassin's Creed franchise, Mike, and I know Matt does too. So I'm really hoping that those games kind of get that different, more creative treatment that it's been neglecting, because I know that there have been a lot of complaints about Ubisoft's internal, at least whatever games they give the green light to. But anyway, we're gonna move on to a game that I think is the exact opposite of an Ubisoft game, and that's Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. This was introduced in the Nintendo Direct a little while ago, and if you're, I know that I'm not a kid, I'm in my 20s, but if you're a kid and you did not freak out when you saw this trailer, I don't know what's wrong with you. This shit looks awesome. The basis behind Mario Kart Live Home Circuit is that you have a toy car, and whatever area that you're in, like whether it's like a living room, whether it's like a kitchen or anything like that, you pretty much create your own Mario Kart track, and then you use your Switch to control your cart, or to control that car as it goes through. And the car has a webcam, or has a camera where it uses so you can actually see where you're driving. So pretty much they use augmented reality, not like virtual reality, but like augmented reality, pretty much like what Pokemon Go is, where it kind of like projects the Pokemon in front of you. They do that with like items and coins and other racers, and they use that, and you pretty much race with your own racetrack that you create in your house. And other people can join too. They can bring their racers in. I've been begging for a Mario Kart 9 for so freaking long. And I'll be honest, I probably won't get this, but this is a freaking creative idea. I think this is pure brilliance for what they're trying to do. So either way, you pretty much the way that it goes is like you set up these little checkpoint areas throughout your house, and I believe you have to drive through it first, so the game recognizes what the actual track is to begin with, and then after you create the track, then you get to actually race it. So it's pretty much whatever, you can use any kind of household objects to create your own Mario Kart track, which I think is genius. You still get the animations if you get hit by a banana, where they spin out. If you get inked, like it covers some of your screen and whatnot. You throw a red shell, they kind of like spin out a little bit. I'm just sold. Like, I think this is a brilliant idea. I probably won't get it, but if I had an extra $100 to throw at something stupid, screw it, I'd go for it.
Yeah. No, I think that's what's interesting. Is that how much it costs? Do you know?
I have no idea. Probably not. I mean, I would assume they wouldn't have, like, the carts anywhere over, like, I don't know, 20 bucks or so, I would think. I mean, they're just plastic and wheels, and you can get, like, remote-controlled cars pretty cheaply. And you're not even...
Yeah, that's true.
And pretty much you're using the software to control it already. I think the only thing that you're really paying for, like, physically is the hardware, and that's the car. So I don't think it would cost too much, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, they also did sell cardboard for $80, so who really knows with Nintendo?
That is a good counterpoint.
No, yeah, it does look really cool. I mean, I don't have much more to add. It like, I probably will not pick it up because, you know, as a grown man, I don't really see myself setting up something like this.
Yeah.
Not because it's like lame. Honestly, it looks really fun to do. I just, you know, I'm a video game guy. I'm not a set up my toys and stuff, but this is the kind of thing that I might buy, and then when I have a kid someday, definitely gonna be playing the shit out of this with him. So you know, we will it's one of those things I want to do, but I probably will not do until I have some child to play this with, and ideally that'd be my kid, because never mind, we're going down a weird plane anyway. No, yeah, it looks cool. I think it's creative. Nintendo's done a lot of stuff like this, like I said, with Labo and stuff. I kind of like that they're reaching out. Like, it's not just so, and they've always done more than video games, but I like this side of it, where it's like it's still video games, but there's like this hardware component, there's like other stuff with it. I think it's really cool. So props to Nintendo. I think this is a cool idea.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Nintendo always goes against the grain. Sometimes it comes up with really creative stuff like this, where you're like, oh, damn, no other company could have thought of this. And then you look at their online, like, how can they be this bad? It's Nintendo. It's a wild card. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Nintendo not knowing what they're going to get and their online being weird, let's talk about my last game.
Oh, that's a perfect segue, dude.
It really is. Super Mario Bros. 35. This is, like, so cool and also so, like, what? I'll start with the good, and then we'll jump into some of the weird. If you've played Tetris 99, this is basically just Tetris 99, but instead of 99, there's 35, and instead of Tetris, you're playing a Mario level. But it works the same way, where, like, you're trying to get your score up. I believe from what I saw, like, score equals time to survive, and then you're just trying to, like, stay alive the longest, essentially. It, like, auto-picks levels. I don't know if it always starts you, like, from level 1 of a certain world, or how that's going to work. But they basically select a level for everyone to start with, and then you just run through the level. And you want to do things like get coins, beat the level quick, power-up, stuff like that. So it's a really interesting and cool idea, and I'm excited to do this. If you guys don't know, I'm, like, huge on Mario Maker 2, so I already love, like, playing through Mario levels, trying to find the quickest way to do them, competing against other people. That's, like, something I do a lot in that game, so I'm excited to, like, have another way to do it. So in that vein, it looks really cool, and I believe from what I saw, it's free, right?
I think it's free. It comes with the NES Online, I believe.
Okay, so then I guess free with an asterisk.
You have to still have Nintendo Online to use it, which is the same thing with Tetris 99.
Right, that makes sense. So, you know, so I guess it's free as long as you're paying for that service. But I guess that makes sense. It's an all-online game. So it looks really cool. But you better play it fast, because I think it's March 1st. You can never play it again. which is very strange. My theory is Nintendo's not going to stick to that. I have a feeling they're going to make it longer. But for right now, for those of you that don't know, the game goes live October 1st. You can download it, play it, and then when March 1st comes around, Nintendo said they are pulling it out of the store, never to be seen again, which I do not understand their reasoning or rationale for that. Yeah,
I don't think anyone does.
I don't understand, like, is it, like, costing them to have those served? Like, I think it's weird. It's weird that they would do that. So, you know, it looks fun. I don't have a lot of, like, weird things to say. I think it's random, but it looks fun. But I just don't understand why they're being so weird with, like, the release date and, I guess, pullback date, which you wouldn't think is a thing. But I guess with Nintendo, you never know what you're going to get.
I'm going to make, like, a next level read, and there's nothing to base this off of. Just pure speculation. What if they're also going to be planning on doing a Zelda thing? And I think Zelda's 35th anniversary is the year after Mario's, and they want to focus to be on Zelda afterwards. I have nothing to base that off of, and I don't even know if my years are right, but if so, that might make sense.
That does, but like, I still don't understand. Then just make a Zelda announcement next year, because by then people will be like, oh, okay, I've had this for like 7 months. The hype in it's not going to last. Like Tetris 99 is not overshadowing this in any way, you know? It's like
Tetris
by
99
then
sells a lot of players too.
Yeah, but it's not like people are going to be like, oh, who cares about this? We got Tetris, you know, like people were excited for this. People would be excited for a Zelda one too. And it's just, my theory is they're not going to do it. I think it's more just a hype thing. They're like, oh, we got this limited edition thing. Get Nintendo Online. Try it out for a few months. People are going to be like, all right, I got to do it because it's going to disappear. And then when time comes, they're going to be like, oh, you know what? You guys like it so much that we're going to extend it. It seems like Nintendo does a lot of weird stuff like that. I'm like, I feel like that's the route we're going down.
No, that does make more sense. And one thing that I'm curious about, not just the fact that Nintendo's being weird as hell, I mean, they always are. One thing that I thought was kind of cool, the more that I was thinking about it, was I wonder how they're going to do it, because I think you saw people like attacking other people, trying to put obstacles and whatnot. With Tetris 99, it's pretty simple, I would say, in terms of how limited you are to interact with the other players, where you pretty much can target somebody, whether it's somebody who's already targeting you, a random person. You're trying to target people who are about to die so you can get extra KOs, so you can dump more garbage on the other people. It's pretty simple because the only thing you're doing is clearing blocks, and even when you get blocks dumped on you, you're still clearing blocks. I'm very curious how simple it's going to be for Mario, because yeah, it's just a 2D platformer, and you're doing all the same levels. But like for the enemy spawns, how difficult it's going to be, how much control you have over them, those are like the questions that I'm having going into it, because Tetris 99, I'm actually really sad I still have not won a Tetris 99 one yet. I keep getting second, it pisses me off, but anyway, it's very straightforward in terms of you're throwing garbage on another person, you just keep clearing blocks. For Mario, it's like, I gotta be jumping, but if they give like added control to like slow people down or something, I don't know. I forget a lot of stuff about the trailer. I just am curious about how much control they're going to give to the player to to control whatever obstacles or hazards that they're going to throw, because Tetris is simple. You just throw lines of blocks. Mario, if they do like a Goomba or a Lakutu, I know it's going to be a little more, it's going to be a step up in the difficulty realm.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much about like the traps. Like, I do know that, like, oh, if you get coins and you kill enemies in your own stage, you get time back. But I don't know too much about, like, how you hurt other people. I mean, there's, I guess, a chance that maybe they don't have that, which would be weird, because that would take out all the interactivity. So there has to be some way, but I haven't really noticed anything. The trailer is hard to follow, so I couldn't, like, tell what's going on in a lot of it. And on their website, they just mentioned, like, oh, like, here's what you do to increase time. But they never said, like, you can also send, like, Lakitus and Spinies and stuff. Because in a way, that'd be counterproductive. Because if they kill those enemies, they gain time, you know?
Yeah, that's why, like, I'm a little on the edge about, like, how it's going to work out. I mean, I'm sure Nintendo has, like, has a plan to do so. But I am curious about how in-depth the obstacles are going to be. So I don't know if it's going to be pretty straightforward or if it's going to be more complex, because considering how good people have gotten at Mario Maker, and I mean, I know people have gotten that good at Tetris too, but I don't know. I guess it'll be something that I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
All right, then. I think we're about to move on to probably, I would argue, the biggest release, just in terms of how the fact that this game series has been neglected for a very, very long time. And while it had spin-off games, the mainline games have not received the same treatment, and that is Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Crash Bandicoot, if you want to take the trip all the way back to the PS1, when every game was going left and right for platforming and whatnot, Crash Bandicoot was the daring franchise that decided to go up and down pretty much for platforming. And whether you can make the argument that it was either a failure or a success, but there's no shock that this game series received a cult following, and it already got a trilogy, and it got the Crash Insane trilogy as well. It was on Switch, it was for PS4, it was pretty much for every system. And the fact that they actually announced this game, which I'm guessing was going to be like an E3 announcement, where it's another installment to the Crash series, which already has like Crash Tag Team Racing, it has the mainline games. I know there's multiple spin-off games that I don't even know of. I know that I'm pretty sure Crash was in PlayStation All-Stars. Crash is a pretty well-known mascot, and this is pretty much, I guess this is a long way of me saying, this is a continuation of that kind of trilogy, and it was kind of cool that they sparked interest again with the Insane trilogy, and then this kind of visual style is just a continuation of that, which looks fantastic. So you do have other power-ups, like you can run on ceilings, run on walls. I know that this game, for some odd reason, I don't understand why, is getting flack because of some of the character design. I don't know why, but some people are trying to boycott this game because they think like the art style is bad or something, or I don't know. People find really odd things about a game, and I know that I just know for a fact that there's people who dislike the art style for this game. I think it looks amazing. I don't know why they're mad, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do have a problem with it, let me know in the comments, because I would like to know why people are getting mad about it. But overall, it just looks like a fantastic game. It's a 3D platformer, just like the ones before it. I know that the original trilogy, some people it got divisive for people because they started relying on vehicles a lot instead of just normal platforming. But I guess the big thing that I always want to think back to as well is it's Activision. And as much as I don't like focusing on it, Activision is known for doing some really shady shit, especially when it comes down to loot boxes and microtransactions. So this is a fair warning that I do believe that they said no loot boxes or microtransactions or anything like that is going to be in this game. But they also said the same thing about Crash Tag Team Racing. And they decided to, after the reviews already came out, they decided to put them in after that. So the reviews don't mention them, but they put them in afterwards. So they make the grind ridiculously long. So I guess I've been dancing around this point. I think it looks fantastic. I honestly want to pick it up, but take it with a grain of salt. Activision doesn't have the best track record with this kind of stuff. So the game by itself, just like Crash Tag Team Racing, and I played it, it was fun as hell to play, looks amazing, but it's Activision. So it's like you kind of got to hedge your bets. Do you think they're going to be extra shady with this because you know it's going to be a big release?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm hoping they don't because it is a big release, so I'm hoping they're like, okay, since this is like the next big installment, people are going to be super nostalgic, that we shouldn't, like, you know, do the horrible thing of like modernizing it too much and adding in microtransactions. Because like when there's a new series, like I'm just numb to microtransactions at a certain point. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a new game. They're going to put it in, which is sad, but, you know, it's kind of a reality. But, like, so when you have an old franchise, like, that's kind of a good time to leave it out because people want to, like, the whole point of this is to relive the old Crash days, you know?
Yeah.
And that's my guess as to why people might be upset with the graphics is they're like, oh, these aren't the graphics that I grew up with. This is different, which bothers people, which I don't agree with. You know, it's like literally 20 years later. You cannot expect them to have the same style, and it looks fine, you know. So, I mean, the thing with Crash is it's like Mario and Zelda, where the point is not in-depth story, detailed. The point is fun, and so really that's what's going to matter. Like, I don't care about the graphics of this as long as it looks good. I don't need it to be like mind-blowingly amazing or perfect. I care about how fun the game is. And from what I saw in the trailer, like, it looks like such a great like callback and homage to what the franchise used to be. So yeah, I'm just hoping that it is made with love, and that it is not made with greed in mind. And certainly there's always greed in development. I get that. It's naive to say that their goal is not money. That's everything's goal. But I hope that there's also care put into it the way that it was put into the originals. Hopefully.
I'm very curious about like what group of people are going to be buying this game, because Crash was like straight out of the 90s. And
I know.
I'm guessing the main demographic is going to be lower than that, but I'm guessing most of the people that are going to be buying this game is going to be like in their 20s or 30s.
Probably.
So I'm curious about that.
Yeah, we'll see. Like, I could see Travis, because I know Travis liked the originals. Yeah, it'll probably be a lot of the same people that bought like Yooka-Laylee for, the same purpose of nostalgia from Banjo-Kazooie. People like that.
But let's hope that it doesn't go the route of Yooka-Laylee, because Yooka-Laylee didn't do the best job of bringing new Banjo to the 3D. Hey, but Yooka-Laylee that was 2.5D, that one did good.
It did. It also was nothing like Banjo-Kazooie, so
when they were trying to mimic Donkey Kong Country, though, right?
Yes.
Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair?
Yeah, it was a lot more like that.
So there you go. So as long as this goes in the route of Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, and not in the route of... Wait, what am I thinking? No, it doesn't make sense because it's 2D. Never mind. Ignore what I just said. Do we have other games that we want to talk about? I do want to touch on like one game if we're good. Yeah,
so I'll just throw a couple out there. So Pat was going to do stuff with us, and he he couldn't make it today. So just just shout out to Pat. I know he said he was interested in the Star Wars Squadrons game that's coming out, and then there's another Star Wars game he mentioned, but I think that's next month. So if you're a Star Wars fan, I know Pat's excited for that, and if he's excited, that's usually a good sign. And then there's sports games coming out, NHL and FIFA. What? Not this year. So if you like sports, it's that year again.
I like how fast your excitement died after that.
I couldn't pretend for that much longer. So, yeah, I mean, that's really it. We talked about most of the big games. Amnesia Rebirth. They're remaking the Amnesia games, so that's kind of cool. That's really it.
I was going to also mention the fact that Auto Chess is coming to PS4. I don't know why. I find that really, really funny. Because Auto Chess, like, kind of like, came out of nowhere and became, like, a decently big thing, and it died off. It was like a pretty quick fad, so I don't know how long it's going to live on the PS4. I just find it funny that it's coming to PS4.
Yeah. Oh, we should mention, too, Pikmin 3 Deluxe is coming out of Switch also.
Oh, yeah, speaking of dumb Nintendo stuff, they, like, pulled Pikmin 3 off of, like, the Wii U eShop for a while, because they're bringing it out for a Switch. What the fuck, Nintendo?
I know, Nintendo is just the biggest, like, F you, we know you love us no matter what we do to you. We're going to, like, rip you, and then you're still going to pay for us. And it's true.
No, it's true. I hate being a Nintendo fanboy. Cartridges were a dumb as fuck idea, and yet I like them.
It's true.
Well, it was a dumb idea when the memory storage was terrible. Now for the Switch, I think it's a smart idea. But when it was for like the N64, that was stupid. Like, there's no denying that.
Oh, for sure. So I said everything I wanted to say.
Okay, comment section. Are you excited about a game coming out in October? Let us know down below. That's honestly all I have. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a lovely day, and make sure you eat something good today because you deserve it. Bye-bye.
Yeah, adios.